How many?
All right, is everybody ready? Tomorrow, you got my mic? Turn it down a little bit. Okay, we got to get some blood going here. Everybody stand up. Help me wake up. Ready? Come on, Maria. You know the drill, right? Let's get some energy going. I want to hear it out loud. I was born a champion. Born a champion. Woohoo! All right, good job. Give yourself a round of applause. Donna, you should know that by heart now. All right. How many of you guys have been to a workshop before? Raise your hand. How many of you guys have been to a workshop? Good. Keep your hand if you've been here, if you've been to 3 or more workshops. Good job. Keep your hand if you've been up 5 or more workshops. 10 or more workshops. 20 or more? 50? 100? All right, we can keep going, but... All right, so why would anybody in their right mind keep coming back to these workshops?
You keep learning.
You keep learning, you keep growing, and when you stop growing, you start what? Dying. So I want to give a special welcome to all of our guests tonight, or anybody, this is your first workshop, because you are among family. Tonight's going to be a great event. I'm excited. Just feel like I'm here with all family and friends. So I'm looking forward to sharing with everybody. And so this is cancer prevention tonight, right? Yes. And then next month, we do this every month. So next month, we are going to be learning about anti-aging and detox. How many of you guys would like to learn how to get healthier as you get older? Say aye. Aye. All right, so mark your calendar. Make sure you get dialed in for that. We do these every month. And basically, this is your university Core 4 degree. Keep coming to these workshops. You keep learning, growing. You will always have the answers to all of your health problems, your health conditions. All right, so as we always do, a little housekeeping in the beginning. So look at that picture on the top left. What do you see there?
Wild child.
Wild child. Where's Ruth? Where's Ruth? Where'd Ruth go? Oh, is she waiting for her friend? That was her last workshop. No, I'm just kidding. So when you're a teacher, your worst nightmare is kids bouncing off the walls and disruption and chaos, because how does that affect everybody else's learning? Distractions. Okay, you ever see somebody actually on their phone in the middle of a restaurant talking at the top of their lungs? Believe it or not, I've had people actually answer and take calls and start talking in the middle of my workshop. Please don't let that be you. If you have a cell phone, what's the best thing to do to prevent that? Silence or off. I lovingly ask you to please do that as a favor to your family and friends here tonight. And then also, our bathroom is pretty accessible, and it's like right there, so everybody can see it. So if you're going to be the person that has to use the restroom because it's an emergency, just know that usually there's lots of people that tend to follow. And that's another thing that we want to try to avoid, to minimize distractions. So please use it if it's an emergency, but please just remember that we want to keep the distractions to a minimum. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay, so are you ready?
Ready.
Get set? Is your mind ready?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to go until I get in your mind. I don't want your spine tonight, I want your mind. So we're talking about cancer prevention, right? All right, so with cancer prevention, why do we want to prevent cancer? Because the worst possible place for anybody to be is when you get it. When you're sitting in that hospital bed, and I want you to imagine this. Try to picture yourself in a hospital bed. You don't have the strength to get out of bed. You need people to help you use the bathroom. You need people to help you open your bottle of water, feed you. You're so wiped out. You have no energy and no strength because of the treatment that was given to you for your cancer condition. And in your last days, all you can do is just long for the people who care most about you. And that's it. That's all you can do, knowing that the end is near. The thought goes through your head. I wish I would have done less of this. Or I wish I would have done more of this. Maybe I wouldn't be here like this. And the reason why I'm walking you through this mental imagery is because 1 out of 2 people, 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 2 women, now, every day, are diagnosed with cancer. That's 50%. That means you turn to the person to the right or the left of you, someone's number is going to be up at some point. All right? So the question becomes, if that, God forbid, is you, and you're thinking, what should I have done less of? What should I have done more of? Maybe I could have prevented this. Then the point of tonight is holding that up, a big mirror, and exposing that, and making application, not leaving here the same person that you walked in as. You know, it's not the smartest person in the room. It's not the person with the most talent in the room, but it's the person who's the most committed and the most consistent with their activities of daily living and their lifestyle that wins in the end. When it comes to health, it's all about consistency. So I'm going to walk you through a number of things which probably you're all aware of, but what I want you to do as we walk through this is check the box. Am I doing it? No. What can I do better? Maybe you're not doing enough of it. Maybe you're doing a great job in it. But we're going to walk through this, and we're going to make sure that we bring you up to speed, that you're doing as much as you can. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
We said 1 out of 2 men and women at some point. And that's why this is so important, because your body's making cancer cells on a moment-to-moment basis. Right or right? You guys know that, right?
Right.
If your body's strong, it can kill it off. But when you let your body weaken because of the things that you may not be doing or may not be doing enough of, then that's when cancer gets a foothold. Do you feel cancer growing, metastasizing? No, you don't. You only get it, the awareness of it, after the diagnostics are there. And by that time, it's what? It's too late. So tonight, what we're going to emphasize more than anything is what to do to control the levers on your DNA that either turn the cancer-promoting genes on or turn them off. There's another lever over here you can grab that turns the cancer-fighting genes on or turns them off. Who's in control of those levers? Say aye.
Aye.
You're in control of those levers. Maurice, we got you right up here. So you're in control, and we got to make sure that you understand how this thing called epigenetics works. Because where cancer starts, those flipping of the switches, it's not outside because of a lack of a medication or a lack of a supplement. It's where? It's inside. It's inside. It's what you're bathing that DNA in, which is going to turn on and turn off these things. And what it comes down to is, these are the things that influence the DNA to start either promoting cancer or shutting it off, or fighting cancer or shutting those genes off. These are the things. What are they? 5 to 10%. How many of you guys have cancer that run in your family? I know I do. Raise your hand. How many of you guys have cancer running in your family? Right? So that is not a death sentence. Just because it runs in your family, it may mean you're predisposed to it. But how much of a predisposition do you think that is? What do you think that is? Like 40, 50, 70, 80%? More than likely you're going to get it because your mom or dad had it? No. Literally 5 to 10%. That's what studies show. What's more important than your genetics is the epigenetics. What's the epigenetics? What influences the genes? And the genes are inside the cells. So whatever you're bathing those cells in, it's basically going to influence those genes for better or worse. Are you with me so far? Okay, so alcohol, is that one of those things that can influence your genes? Yeah. Too much of that can turn on the cancer-promoting genes. Being overweight, we know that can do that. Being sedentary, not enough exercise. Toxicity, you're bathing your cells in toxins. Is that a recipe for cancer-promoting genes? Of course. The cancer-promoting genes are already there, but you're activating them if you allow your cells to be bathed in toxins, whether it's that or alcohol or tobacco, stress. Does stress activate cancer-causing genes? You better believe it, yeah. So that's another factor. Sugar, huge factor. And then, of course, nerve interference. So these are all the factors which really override and regulate the genes that you may have that may be predisposing you to cancer. Those are more important than your cancer genes. You got it? You got it? You with me? Can we move on? Okay, so we're going to the next one. So you're either going to flip the switch on or off. So I'm going to give you 5 keys. Here's the first one. Eliminate cancer-causing what? Drugs and testing. Believe it or not, the testing for cancer also causes cancer. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, so how many of you guys heard that if you take an aspirin a day, it keeps the doctor away? What did they tell you an aspirin a day is good to prevent? Heart attacks. Did anybody see the study that just came out and said, no, we were wrong? And some people are still taking it. This study showed that women taking an aspirin a day for 5 years or more increased their risk of breast cancer by 80%. Yeah, so they tell you to take one a day to prevent one disease and winds up causing another. Cholesterol drugs have shown to increase the risk of breast cancer by 83 to 143%. Yeah, from a medical journal. Antibiotic studies show an associated risk of breast cancer. Now, why am I showing you this again? Because most of us, we were born into a medicine chest. This is just what our parents did to us reactively, because that's what they were taught, and that is the response. And of course, we see a lot of commercials, and then we see our family and friends are doing this, so we do it also. But in the end, does it mean it's right? We are seeing studies that emerge that show us that it does have an effect on whether or not we're increasing our risk of cancer. Can everybody see that? Blood pressure medications. Lots of people on blood pressure medications. Aron and I, my best friend from childhood is sitting right here, and his brother Maurice, who taught me who Van Halen was. So we went to our 30th anniversary, 30th reunion a few years ago. And what did I discover? That half of my friends that I went to high school with at 47 years of age were on blood pressure, cholesterol medication, they're diabetic. So it's just like, this is the new normal. I mean, it may be common, but it's not normal. These blood pressure medications, you guys know 4 of them were recalled for having cancer-causing impurities in them. And some of my patients were still on it. They didn't get the memo. So again, this is a factor. And the whole purpose of you being here tonight is to not say to yourself, yeah, I know that. The purpose of you saying this, of being here tonight, is to open up your medicine chest and say, okay, what am I doing? And if I'm serious about preventing cancer with everything in my power, is there anything here that I can reduce or eliminate? And if so, what's the best, most strategic and safest way to do that? Does that make sense? Okay. So what about testing for cancer, like mammography? Does mammography have the potential to increase your cancer?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have cancer cells in the breast and they do a mammography, if anybody's ever had a mammography, you know that it's not very comfortable. There's a lot of pressure that's put on the breast, and what does that do? Sometimes it can rupture cancer cells and cause them to spread. No different than a biopsy. We also know that mammographies have a lot of what? Radiation. So that also, the little x-rays that we take care at our office that are 1/100th of a second, you have nothing to worry about. But when you have a mammography or a chest x-ray, you're talking about sometimes a couple of hundred times, the 200 times the amount of radiation. That's something to be concerned about. In addition to that, after checking 90,000 people over a 25-year study, here's what the British Medical Journal just found.
This study shows us that the benefits of mammography are less than we had hoped for, and the potential harms are greater than we had anticipated.
Did everybody see that? Do not reduce cancer deaths.
This study reported that a large population of women that are randomized to get screening mammography and a good breast exam versus those that don't get the screening mammography, that there's no difference whatsoever in subsequent mortality.
Does this study give you pause about recommending mammography?
This study adds to an accumulation of data. Over the last 5 years, we have been seeing more data from multiple large studies showing at a population level that we're not seeing the benefit from mammography that we had hoped. The more you look, the more you find with screening mammograms, and we are unfortunately potentially detecting a lot of tumors that the women would have lived with for their entire lives and it would have never harmed them. And this is called overdiagnosis.
So this is part of the issue. You know, most other countries like England and many of the other European countries, they don't do mammographies but once every 5, 7, some of them 10 years. And so what you're hearing from them is a problem that we're seeing in this country, particularly because of the frequency of the testing. And what does it do? Again, everybody has cancer. The question becomes, are you detecting things that are, you know, potentially going to be malignant, or is the body going to take care of it by itself? And there's a lot of false positives. What really is benign, they say, oh, it very well may be malignant. And what does that cause? More testing, more anxiety, right? So why are they doing so much more testing here in the United States than other countries? What do we have more influence of here in the United States than other countries?
Big pharma.
Big pharma, right. So big pharma has something to do with this. Sure, if you're aware of who founded breast cancer awareness, anybody aware of this? I know I may be trying to touch, you know, I don't want to touch a nerve with anybody here. This may be near and dear to some of you guys with the pink ribbon and all, but this is a fact. Breast cancer awareness was started by the makers of tamoxifen, AstraZeneca. So they already had the treatment for the breast cancer, these breast cancer drugs, right? Arimidex and tamoxifen. So it was AstraZeneca, they already had these drugs, and they wanted to find a way to promote their use. So they created this thing called breast cancer awareness. Think pink. So Susan Komen became the front runner for this, which is a seemingly charitable foundation. But really, they raise billions of dollars, and where does all that money go? It gets poured back into the research and development of more what? Cancer drugs, which has nothing to do with education or prevention. It's all just treatment, because there's much more profit in the treatment of disease than in preventing it, right? It's an industry. The cancer treatment, that's why you will never ever see a headline on the 6 o'clock news that we found the cure for cancer. You'll never see it. No. There's way too much money to be made. So here's the problem. You got more testing, more false positives, more unnecessary treatments, more stress, right? More anxiety. What does that do to your DNA? Turns on the cancer promoting genes, turns off the cancer fighting genes. You have less peace. When you lose hope, that's when things start going down. So this is what we're exposing young women to unnecessarily. So I would urge you to be careful of that. If you're insistent upon having some kind of screening, you can do thermography. That's what I would do if I was insistent upon it. But again, you want to be making sure that you're living a lifestyle that is shutting those cancer genes off. And then that's where your peace is going to come from, knowing that you have a good strategy and you're consistent with it. PSA screening. So if you look at the picture on the left, you'll see he's getting the rubber glove. Not something that I fancy, especially knowing that it really shows no substantial evidence-based outcome in terms of preventing prostate cancer. So studies go back as 20 years ago that show inconclusive evidence in determining outcomes that are favorable from prostate exams for non-symptomatic men, which means if you don't have symptoms, you should not be getting a prostate exam. PSA testing. How many of you guys heard that somebody was diagnosed with prostate cancer, or there was a concern because their PSA was just off the charts? Right? Did you know that PSA testing is not specific for prostate cancer? No, it's not. So what can cause the PSA to be elevated? Infections, benign enlargement. What percentage of men naturally have their prostate enlarged as they age? 100%. Okay, so most men will die with their prostate cancer and not from it. Again, so we go into overdiagnosis, overtesting. So you can have an infection in your prostate, and these are all kinds of things that will affect this PSA number, and then we start jumping to conclusions. So non-symptomatic, don't go looking for trouble unless you want to find it. So okay, so when we start looking into treatments, conventionally speaking, what are most of the options right away? Again, this is the standard for oncology, medical care. What are the tools in their toolbox? Radiation, chemotherapy, right? So we know that there are risks with that, but again, conceptually, I want you to understand how this works. Now, sometimes there are tumors that grow and cancers that obstruct normal organs from functioning properly, which can be a risk or compromise somebody's life. You know, sometimes there is a place where that needs to be cut out, or they can actually target the radiation to reduce it, shrink it, but still and sometimes in emergency situations that needs to happen. However, I can tell you on a whole, as far as how it affects your body, I want you to walk through this with me, because what happens is that you wake up a sleeping giant. When you start using radiation, you can take benign cancer cells and you turn them into malignant. You can shrink tumors, but if you don't kill the cancer stem cells, again, the giant is only asleep temporarily. You ever hear of people that are seemingly cured for cancer, and they're given their praise reports, and then a year later, what happens? Comes roaring back. Why? Because the cause, the source and the root of the cancer was not addressed. And that's one thing that I can confidently tell you that modern medicine does not do. They don't correct the cause. They just treat the what? They just treat the symptoms, the effect. So that's like having a fishbowl. Anybody ever have a fish tank? You ever see how fast the tank gets dirty? And so if you don't change the water and you don't clean it up, what happens to the fish? It dies. Okay, so if you put some medicine in there for the fish and you left the water dirty, is that going to help the situation? No, it's still going to die. It's not getting to the cause of the problem. So with your cells, the cell on the left, remember, inside the cell is where the DNA is. And inside the cell, you're either going to have life or you're going to have the process of death. So if you look on the left, that's a healthy cell, and you look at the cell on the right, that's a cell that's dying. And then when it comes to cancer cells, you're either going to be promoting the one on the right, or you're going to be promoting the one on the left. Now, if the body's already sick, and it already gave cancer the opportunity to grow, the environment has to be ripe for the conditions for cancer to grow. If you continue to poison those cells, then what happens from there? You die quicker, right? So you know what's interesting? It's like, it doesn't matter if it's cancer, it doesn't matter if it's a virus, it doesn't matter if it's COVID, a cold, the flu. It really doesn't matter. This is how disease works. We don't just look at flies, by a garbage can and say, I think the flies caused those garbage to be there, right? No. First, your body has to be sick, and then you get cancer. I got a guy come in today. He's like, I just got a big cough in the last week, and I went to the doctor, and he gave me the Z-Pack. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, it really helped. Got feel a lot better. So you understand what happened. It took away the symptoms, but the reason why you got sick in the first place is because your body was weak. You're under too much stress, or whatever the case is. So the virus had a great opportunity there to set up camp and have Thanksgiving. And so what did the antibiotics do? Killed the bacteria, killed your immune system even more, wiped out all the good probiotics in your gut. Now what do you have to recover from? One, from the condition, the disease, and then again from the medication. Right, Donna? Yeah. So this is what it is. Same thing with the cancer. So you can get the radiation, you can get the chemotherapy, and it may kill the cancer, but it's also going to kill who? You. The patient. It leaves your body in a weakened state. So the question becomes, what else can we do to prevent that? And if you do have to go through that, what can you do to keep as much strength in your body as possible? Because I've seen firsthand how it destroys a person's life. I don't want to go into the details. You guys have seen the videos of my mom and her condition and all that. And again, there was a lot that goes into that recipe. I honor people for the decisions that they make. That's why God gave us free will. And you have to be okay. What I've learned is you have to be okay with what people decide. And I'm okay with that. My job is just to deliver the message, don't shoot the messenger, right? So what do we need to do? We need to change the water. So if you want to prevent cancer or you want to strengthen the body in the process of having your cancer treated, you have to change the internal environment. You have to change the environment in which the DNA is functioning so that you can shut off the cancer promoting genes and turn on the cancer fighting genes. How do we change the internal environment? This is where the rubber meets the road. Are you ready? Okay, so let's start with concept number 1, alkalizing nutrition. How many of you guys know, you've seen like batteries. What kind of batteries do we buy? Alkaline batteries, right? So you see the Energizer Bunny, lots of energy, just keeps going and going and going. Well, there's something to that. You see the pool on the left, it's green. You see the pool on the right. What could cause a pool to become green? What has to change in that? Algae. Now, certain conditions have to be right for the algae to grow in there. What has to change in that pool for the opportunity for that algae to grow in there? The pH has to be off. So your body has a certain pH inside of it also. And no different than a pool, if the pH is off in your body, you're creating the conditions that will allow cancer to set up camp and start thriving. And this is going to feed the metabolism of the cancer, creating more and more cancer cells. So watch how this works. Pay careful attention to this. So Dr. Otto Warburg, he was a 1931 Nobel Prize winner for cancer discovery. This was back in Germany. I want to tell you the story on it, but Albert Einstein literally sent a messenger to him while he was on the front lines in World War I. He was in a trench, and he was fighting for his country. And Albert Einstein, I don't know, Hitler, they were all together, and they said, we got to get this guy back here so that we can do this work. We need him. He was like one of the leading scientists of the time. He was that well renowned. He said that no disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. Now that was many years ago, but the concept or the notion or the law, the principle, that hasn't changed. That has not changed at all. How many of you know you have a pH inside of your body? Everybody knows that? Okay, so that pH in ideal health conditions should be what? Acidic or slightly alkaline? Should be slightly there. We're not talking about your alimentary canal in here, the acids that digest. We're talking about the cells. We're talking about the fluid that the cells bathe in. We're talking about the internal mechanisms which look like this. The blood field on the right, I want you to look at that picture up on the right. You see all those cells? Those are healthy cells. That's a healthy blood field. This is live blood cell microscopy. This is real stuff. I've had this done, guys. It's real. This is the real deal. What I'm showing you right now, these are the cells. In particular, these are red blood cells. What do you notice on the outer edge? You see a little white ring on the outer edge of those cells. You know what that is?
Fat.
That's the cell membrane, which is made up of what? Fat. So says the people who have been to 100 of my workshops. Thank you very much. Correct answer. Good job. So the cells are made up of fat because fat is very delicate and it's permeable. And that's perfect for letting all the nutrients in and allowing all the toxins to get out. That cell membrane is the barrier which serves a very important function. Right or right?
Right.
All right. So listen to this. On the outside of the cell, it carries a negative charge in the blood fields. On the inside of the cell, it's positively charged. Why do you have that polarity? Why is that important? Because that negative charge helps the cells repel each other. Right? So Ruth, if I'm negative, do you want to be around me?
No.
Good. So the cells are repelling each other so that they can stay far enough apart from each other and have maximum velocity, carrying as much oxygen and nutrients through the bloodstream as possible. Does that sound like a healthy situation? Yes? So that's why that's a healthy blood field. That's really important. Now, when you're eating more of an alkaline-based diet, like water-rich fruits and vegetables, alkaline water, low-sugar fruits, just basically foods that grow naturally and not in a lab. Alkaline foods, which cause an alkaline ash, will literally starve cancer out of the body. You know why? Because cancer doesn't use oxygen to metabolize. Did you know that? Cancer does not use oxygen. Here's where cancer sets up camp opportunistically in your body. When you start eating more of the standard American diet, processed meats, alcohol, caffeine, trans fats, lots of sugar, sugar alternatives, sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, what are you doing? You're creating an acidic medium inside your bloodstream, and isn't acid damaging? You ever see what acid does? Like cavities. Cavities, sugar doesn't cause cavities. Sugar creates acid that eats through the enamel in your teeth. So for the delicate cell membrane that's made of fat, do you think there's any problem with that acid medium breaking down the cell walls? No. So it destroys the integrity of the cell walls as you look at this picture on the left, and all the positive charges leak out, right? And now what do you have? You don't have repulsion of those cells, you have what? Attraction. And now they can't carry the oxygen through. And now they start clumping together in a process which develops called fermentation. Turn to your neighbor and say, fermentation.
Fermentation.
Fermentation. Okay, so this is what cancer uses for its metabolism. Fermentation. And this is again what this Nobel Prize laureate said, that cancer has only one primary cause: the replacement of respiration of oxygen in normal cells by a what? A fermentation of sugar. So when you see a PET scan and you see all those dark spots on the PET scan, do you know what that shows? That shows where cancer is utilizing the sugar, in metabolizing the sugar, because that radioactive dye that they put inside of you, do you know what it is? It's sugar. Yeah. So that's exactly what a PET scan shows, where the sugar is being metabolized by the cancer. So what do you think would be a good idea to take away from the cancer to starve them out of your body? Sugar, that would be a good idea. And then obviously start minimizing this and start doing that. Now this is one thing, like if I was diagnosed with cancer, heck yeah, I'd be doing that. I'd be looking at that very carefully. But as a matter of fact, we should all be doing that to some degree. I want you to watch this.
If you limit your sugar, you decrease your chances of developing cancer.
Absolutely.
Cantley, a Harvard professor and the head of the Beth Israel Deaconess Cancer Center, says when we eat or drink sugar, it causes a sudden spike in the hormone insulin, which can serve as a catalyst to fuel certain types of cancers.
What we're beginning to learn is that insulin can cause adverse effects in various tissues. And of particular concern is cancer.
Why? Nearly a third of some common cancers, including breast and colon cancers, have something called insulin receptors on their surface. Insulin binds to these receptors and signals the tumor to start consuming glucose.
So this is your body.
Every cell in our body needs glucose to survive. But the trouble is, these cancer cells also use it to grow.
So if you happen to have a tumor that has insulin receptors on it, then it will get stimulated to take up the glucose that's in the bloodstream. So rather than going into the fat or the muscle, the glucose now goes into the tumor, and the tumor uses it to grow.
So you've just seen a tumor turn blue, which is essentially reflective of glucose going into it.
That's right.
So these cancers, much in the same way that muscle will say, hey, I'd like some of that glucose. The fat says, I would like some of that glucose. The cancers have learned how to do this themselves as well?
Yes, so they have evolved the ability to hijack that flow of glucose that's going by in the bloodstream into the tumor itself.
So, you ever heard of the keto diet? Raise your hand if you heard of the keto diet. So looking at that picture, if that was a keto diet, what do you not see in that picture? Sugar, yeah. All you see is fats, good fats, and protein. That's it. And I could show you numerous cases, studies, not just with laboratory animals, but with also humans as well. Some of them my patients that have done this successfully. So again, this is in extreme cases where a person's been diagnosed with cancer and a decision needs to be made. Now, I don't say this is just something good to live on for everybody, because when it comes to your DNA, some people don't have the genes that allow them to metabolize saturated fats and cholesterol and things like that, as well as others. Some people can eat meat every day, Genetically, they're designed to do that. And some people are not. But I will say this. In an emergency case where there is cancer and there's a diagnosis and you don't want chemo, you don't want radiation, this is foundational to start with this and do it until you get post-tests and know that you're in the clear. So what are some of the things, again, to check the box? What can we do better? What can we do better? Looking back on all your days, God forbid you're laying in that hospital bed. What can you do better looking back now? Look at all of the sugar, alcohol, beer, whiskey, wine. I mean, there's a difference between moderation and heavy, because those are carbs. That breaks down into sugar, and especially with your pancreas. So you look at all these things, and I could put up a million pictures, but you know what? When you can learn how to read the labels, and you can see that, oh my gosh, corn syrup, canola oil, protein isolate, sugar, soy lecithin, maltodextrin, which is sugar, and you look down, there's 60 ingredients, and you can pronounce maybe 3 of them. You know that this was all made in the laboratory, and none of it's good for you. So read the labels, and I wouldn't complain. Yes, the cost of foods and everything is going up, but you know what? In the end, it always costs more to treat the disease than how much organic food or any food right now costs. You get treatment for chemo, radiation, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of dollars. It bankrupts people. Organic food is not going to bankrupt anybody. Do it now as a preventative. Do the right thing. Get the right food. Support your body. Give it what it needs. Don't take food from a laboratory and shove it down in there and think that it's okay. There are toxins that your DNA is bathing in because of this, which is turning on the cancer-promoting genes, isn't it? What about bread? What about pasta? What about potatoes? What about my healthy cereal, the Cheerios with the heart health promotion on it? It's clever marketing, but in the end, what does it break down to? Sugar. It breaks down to sugar. All right. So again, I'm not here to, to rain on the parade, but just let's tell me, okay? Tell me if you can do something better, and that was your breakfast. What would you take out? The grits. Why? What is it made of? Corn. Is corn a grain? Yeah. Is corn a vegetable? No. Okay. Corn's grain, so you don't need that. What would you take out of that picture right there? Take the oatmeal out. Stay with the fruit. Take the oatmeal out. All right, again, I'm talking about extreme cases. If you're overweight, if you're on medications, if you have diabetes, if you have cancer, okay, and you want results, and you're serious, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. I'm giving you the secret sauce right here. All right? Nutri-Grain bars. Oh boy, they look so healthy. Woo-wee, I should start my day with that. Maybe not. No, maybe do something better. How about the Egg McMuffin? What is that? Some of us, we're stuck in places where that's all we can do is go through a drive-through window. But if you did, and you got creative, what do you know you could do to improve upon that? Throw out the what?
Bread.
The bread, thank you very much. What about there? What's that? It's a Caesar wrap, chicken Caesar wrap. What's wrong with that? It's the wrap, yeah. But it's whole wheat. It's got vitamins. It's got nutrients. It's grain. Okay, what's that going to do to your insulin levels? It's going to raise it up. Yeah, it's going to raise it up. What's that going to do to the tumors? It's going to feed them. Yes, exactly. All right, what about the arroz con pollo? I heard a gasp. No, that's it. Please don't all leave at once. A mass exodus. So what do the rice and beans do to your blood sugar? Okay, now listen. Let's again put this in perspective here. All right, if you don't have health conditions, if you are healthy, can you have chicken, rice? Can you have all that stuff every day? I wouldn't do it every day. Can you have it once in a while, once, twice a week? Yeah, if you're healthy. But if you're a cancer patient, if you're on medications, if you're obese, if you're overweight, if you're diabetic, if you have health conditions, you need to look very carefully and get real with yourself. Can't be doing this every day and expect life to get better. You can't. You're kidding yourself. What's wrong with the yogurt? Full of sugar. Yeah. What about Greek yogurt? Greek yogurt, loaded with protein, but you can get, high in protein, which is great if you're a bodybuilder. Do I have any bodybuilders in here? No? Carlos, you still aspiring? No, I'm just kidding. No bodybuilders. Guess what? It's dairy. You know what dairy does on the alkaline acid spectrum? pulls you into acidity. So the less dairy, the better when it comes to cancer prevention. Okay. How about the chicken and potatoes? What's wrong with that? What would you knock out? And the bread. The breading on there. Again, so a lot of this would fly under the radar for us. We'd go to, go over a friend's house and they cook for us, and the potatoes, but what do you do about the breading? I mean, that's going to have an effect. Scrape it off. Yeah, scrape it off. How about this? You got your steak, and what would you throw out there? The potatoes. Okay, so steak and asparagus, no problem there. No insulin response there. It's a good fat-burning meal right there. And you got your stir fry there. So you guys get the point, right? Okay, so you know what you need to have less of, and what it requires is a little more thought and planning. So if you're away from home, you may need to go shopping on Saturday, make your meals on Sunday, put it in Tupperware, and make enough for the whole week. And this is how you get control over your situation. You just have to give it a little forethought. Nobody's saying it's easy, but it is possible. So what would be an improved way to control your insulin first thing in the morning? What's one of the easiest things that you could do? A shake or a smoothie. This is what I do after my workout every day. 2 scoops of this, 26 grams of protein, low sugar. It's got antioxidants, vitamins, nutrients. Many of you guys are taking the Complete Clean. How many of you guys have is that like a core staple? So that's an easy thing for you to start your day. And also, this is what I have with it: the berries and almond butter. Berries are low in what? Sugar. Low sugar fruits. Now, if you're thinking bananas and Fuji apples and grapes and pineapples, you're going off on the high end of the sugar with the fruits, high end of the spectrum there. So if you're looking at low sugar fruits, what are you looking at? All the berries and the Granny Smith apples, that's lower in sugar. So those are the things that you want to go with. Why do you want to have almond butter or organic peanut butter? Why do you want to have that? Because it's got what? Fat. Good fat will help you burn fat, and it will also help you from stop being hungry. So you don't eat and then turn around an hour later like, I'm famished, I'm starved, this isn't working. That's the way we do it. How about for lunch? What's important with lunch? No bread, no pasta, no rice. Have yourself a salad. Make sure you have what on it? Olive oil. Why is olive oil important? Good, healthy fats. By the way, what do all these good fats do for the cell membrane? Help to heal it, regenerate it. Is that important for the normal expression of DNA and promoting cancer-fighting genes? Yes. You better believe it. That's why these fats are so important. They're anti-inflammatory. They're cancer-killing. So you should be having a vat of that on your table, and at least for breakfast for lunch and dinner, make sure you're pouring it on your salad and all of your veggies. Get a good amount of that in there, and you'll know at least you're doing what you can from that perspective. And then for dinner, again, what do you not see on that plate? Carbs, right. You got your chicken and veggies, you got your stir-frying veggies. Now look at the chicken and look at the meat. Now just remember that you can get regular meat, which is grain-fed, which is corn-fed, okay, which is toxic, which is doing the opposite to your DNA that we want it to do, or you can get grass-fed. Okay? You can have grass-fed meat and still eat healthy from that standpoint. Now, as far as overall eating red meat every day, is that a good recipe to prevent cancer? No. But you can have it in moderation as long as it's what? Grass-fed. That's really important, right? So, what's the word that comes before exercise there? Consistent. Did I mention that earlier? How many of you guys exercise more than once annually? Good. How many of you guys exercise a few times a week? Raise your hand if you exercise 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, every day. Good for you. All right, here's what I'm going to tell you. There are so many studies that I've seen, preventing Alzheimer's, reversing diabetes, heart health, cancer, fighting cancer. And the one thing that they all have in common, which is free, is exercise. And I can tell you from everything that I've studied and everything that I think about when people ask me, what can I do better? Here's the answer. Be consistent with your exercise. If you take blood pressure medication, do you take that 3 days a week? If you take diabetes medication, do you take that 3 days a week? No. Your body needs oxygenation. It needs deep breathing. Do you know what that does for your nervous system? Autonomically, it helps to balance it. And the effect of that enables your body to handle stress, which is preventing cancer and bathing and supporting that DNA in terms of it turning on the cancer-fighting genes. Do you understand that? Are you with me? Are you following me? This is really important. So pick your poison, whatever it is. It's a brisk walk every day, like I did a brisk walk this morning. 20 minutes around my block. 20 minutes, I don't start my day without doing something. Now, I don't lift weights every day. I'll lift weights like 3 days a week, but I will do something to get my body moving every day. My brain don't work if my body don't move. So I would strongly, highly encourage you, if you're a cancer patient or you're serious about preventing this, some of you guys, you do an hour 3 days a week. That's not as effective as doing small amounts every single day. You will see better results across the board with every aspect of your health if you do this because of the sustained cardiac output and the effect that it has on your nervous system with deep breathing. Right, Carlos? Deep breathing. Biking, weightlifting, it really doesn't matter. Now, what about yoga? What about stretching and yoga? Can I do that for exercise? You can do that, but you can't substitute it for exercise. Because when it comes to the studies that I've shown, the control groups that they had, along with people who did aerobic and weightlifting, they had the control group over here that just did stretching and toning. They didn't see any benefits as far as preventing Alzheimer's and cancer and all that other stuff. So does it have health benefits? Yes. I'm not saying you don't do it or you're wasting your time. What I am saying is you cannot substitute that for daily exercise. All right, so I just wanted to touch on that. Okay, so as I always say, the mind can only absorb what the sea can endure. I wanted to just take a quick mental break to recognize some of our patients. What we do here when we work with patients is it's called teamwork. That means you do your part, I do my part, and when you do your part, I really appreciate that. Deborah, Tamara, Nikisha, they really appreciate that. When somebody keeps their appointments, never miss an appointment, they come on time, they're just killing it with their schedule, doing a great job. Always see great results, and we really appreciate that. So I just wanted to recognize a few people here. When we call your name, just stand up so we can recognize you, and then we have a little medal of honor to give you. Patricia Eiton, if you can stand up. Zarius Williamson, Zarius is not here. Rosita, Maria, and Peter Romaine. Everybody stand up, give them a big round of applause. Perfect adjustment, attendance. Awesome. And we have a Lifesaver Award. So I'm going to read something real quick. I'm going to do this a little bit different because sometimes I ask people to come up and give their testimonial, but just to save time and reduce the stress level of the person who I would ask to share their testimony. So when I first saw Dr. Yachter, my blood sugar was out of control, even though I'd been on medication for 15 to 20 years, and I was having symptoms from the medications. She didn't come here because her back or her neck hurt. She came here because she wanted help with her diabetes. What the heck is wrong with you? You see, that's what everybody was telling her. Are you kidding me? You're going to a chiropractor for your blood sugar? So I'd been to my doctor, tried different medication, eliminated carbs and sugar from my diet, but still needed medications to manage my blood sugar levels. She said, I'm already in the second week of my care, and my blood sugar levels are so much improved. I'm thankful for an avenue to better health. I am thankful for my friend Clara, who referred me to Dr. Yachter. And so this is Patricia, whose story I'm reading you. And that's her friend Clara, who referred her in. Everybody give them a big round of applause. So, there is a life saved, and this is the life saver, and we want to recognize you for saving a life. So there's all kinds of goodies in there that I know you'll use in good health. Thank you. I love you and appreciate you. All right, now we're going to stand up, turn to the person on your right, put your hands on their shoulders, and put your hands on their shoulders, and I want you to squeeze. Don't hurt them, just squeeze and get the stress out. Just squeeze and get the stress out. Good. All right, karate chop. Karate chop. All right. You waking up? All right, let's turn around. Turn around to your other neighbor. Get some stress out. Very nice. All right, karate chop. Awesome. Very nice. Good, good, good. All right, give yourself a round of applause. All right. Heads up, peeps. All right. Heads up. Coming up. Coming back at you. All right. So you got to stay awake. Okay. So, number 4. We're giving you 5 keys. How many keys? 5. So number 4 is toxins. The EPA says that your indoor environment is what? 2 to 5 times more toxic than your outdoor environment. We're all aware of the toxins in our environment outside there, but what we're learning now is the toxins are inside, everywhere, that are flying under the radar here. Our prescription medications, the sudsing agents in soap, toothpaste, shampoo, sodium lauryl sulfate in all those. That's what makes all the foaming suds and bubbles. Aluminum in our deodorant, mercury in shots, childhood shots, vaccinations, also mercury in amalgam fillings, and then you have mercury that they used in contact lens solutions up until the 90s. So all this is cumulative, building up in our cells, affecting our DNA. We have lead that's in our water supply to some degree. In over 2,000 different water supplies across the country, they were found to have higher lead levels in their water supply than Flint, Michigan. So don't think that our water is safe. There's lead in your cosmetics, lipsticks, all types of cosmetics that go through your skin, which is an organ. And so it's cumulative. And then you have lead in paint, which is in older homes. But what studies show is that even if you live in a newer home, if your parents lived in homes that were lead lines, when they had you, the lead that they had that accumulated in their body was stored in the bones. And what they know now is that whenever the body undergoes hormonal changes, as you go through puberty or you age or you're pregnant, that lead gets released. And when a pregnant mother releases lead from her, where does it go? Through the cord into the baby. So these toxins, especially heavy metals, get passed down in utero 4 generations. That's what they've shown. Even if you were not exposed to it, if your parents were, especially with the heavy metals, you and I have it. I know I had it. I went for a test. I was full of it. And then the last thing is called what? Glyphosate. How many of you guys have heard of Roundup? You ever kill weeds with Roundup? Yeah. That's what the active ingredient is in glyphosate. What do they use glyphosate in? What primarily? 2 things: corn and soy. And what do you think is in pretty much all of our? It's ubiquitous. It's on almost everything that we eat today. Corn and soy. No. Yeah. If you're not eating organic or grass-fed meat, what are they raising the chickens, the cows, and the fish? What do they feed them? Corn. Yeah. And then so the soy fillers. It's in everything. Just read the label. You don't have to take my word for it. Go read a label. I challenge you to find one label that doesn't have a corn or soy in it. And so this stuff, what they have found is it gets through the blood-brain barrier. And so these are cells in your brain that are affected by that, which they have shown studies correlates with dementia and Alzheimer's. Over a 30-year period of time, MIT, one of the professors there did a study. They showed the correlation of the application of glyphosate as it increased over a 30-year period of time and the number of deaths from senile dementia. Did you know that? Yeah. That's why it's so important to pay attention to what crosses the threshold of your mouth, number 1. And number 2, make sure you are actively and effectively detoxing your body at some level. And Lord willing, your brain. These are mice that were put in their water supply, glyphosate. What do you see in those 3 pictures? Tumors. Yeah, mammary tumors within 2 weeks developed in every one of those laboratory mice with a little bit of glyphosate that was put in their water. What do you think it does to our cells over time? It accumulates no different. So it has to be addressed. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the detox thing tonight. That's next month. And we've got very effective detox programs. One of them is this. We've been using this for a while. This is one of the easier programs to do. You take a couple of capsules in the morning and a couple of capsules at night. It's very simple. It's very effective. It's very safe. I'm doing it right now myself. And I know that from my genetics, my body doesn't necessarily do a good job of detoxing on its own. So I'm always looking for things to help boost my body in terms of its detox process. And when I do, my brain is firing on all cylinders. I can always see the difference. I can always feel the difference. My recall, my mental clarity, my energy, everything changes when you're getting those toxins out of the cells. So this is something that's available. You know, I haven't really promoted this much, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it's an option for you if you don't actively have a gentle, safe way of detoxing right now. We have just a handful of those up front. If you're interested in that, you feel like you need some help with that, talk to them up front. There's just a couple of kits and we can get those for you. You know, one of them you take in the morning, the other one that you take at night. If you want to really learn about detoxing and how to get down to the deeper levels and your brain, come to the workshop next month. But this is all I want to say, because as it pertains to cancer prevention, is this important? It has to be addressed. It has to be addressed. And if you're not checking the box, then you should be asking yourself, what can I do to address this? This is one of those things that you could and should be doing. Other supplements, you have asked me, many of you have asked me, what else can I take as far as cancer preventative? Ultraplex Onco. This has something called sulforaphane, which is the active ingredient in broccoli, cruciferous vegetables. What is that? It neutralizes toxins. So with this supplement, you would literally have to eat 5 pounds of broccoli to get the same benefit of just taking a couple of capsules of this. So it's an antioxidant, it's anti-aging, it's anti-inflammatory, helps with your blood pressure, it helps to support the intestinal mucosa of your colon. Why is that important? Where's a large part of your immune system generated from, supported from? Your colon. So that's really important, and major cancer preventative. So this should be a staple part of your program. CoQ10. How many of you guys have heard of CoQ10? Usually what they give it to you for is when you're on cholesterol medication, because it helps support regeneration of new healthy cells. And obviously this is crucial to make sure that those nutrients are making it to the internal part of the cell. And this is what helps in terms of genetically supporting the shutting off the promoting of the cancer cells. And so this is one of those products that will do that. CoQ10 supports normal, healthy replication of cells. Cancer is just the opposite of that. Replication of abnormal cells. Curcumin. Any of you guys heard of curcumin? Turmeric? Okay. Everybody, usually at this point, most of you guys are taking some form of it. The real question, I wonder, is number one, are you taking a good form of it? And number two, are you taking enough of it? A lot of people like to put it in their foods, and that just doesn't cut it when you have a cancer condition or you have an inflammatory condition. You have to have mega doses of it. So what these capsules provide is the mega doses that are needed for anti-inflammatory response, number one, and number two, anti-cancer. So there's more research backing this as an anti-cancer supplement than almost anything else. So this is key. It's crucial in terms of supplementation, really not just for cancer, but for any arthritic condition, your blood sugar, your heart, your blood pressure, anti-inflammatory. There's nothing more powerful, potent, and safe than this. And then, of course, vitamin D. Most of you, we have tested for vitamin D. We have a little a kit that we take a blood sample from your finger. We know, for most of you guys, we know what your vitamin, raise your hand if you know what your vitamin D level is. Okay, good. If you don't, you need to know, because if your vitamin D levels are not at 70 or over, you're not preventing the cancers that you should. That's what this says. One of the studies that showed one of the best ways to prevent most major cancers is to maintain an optimal vitamin D level. What's an optimal vitamin D level?
70.
Very good. 70 or over. 70 or over. So if you're below 70, then you're missing this part. There's strong evidence you can reduce the risk of breast, prostate, colon, lung, pancreatic, and ovarian cancers by at least what? 50%. Yeah. So where do you need your vitamin D level to be? 70. Okay. If you know where it is now, and you're actively supplementing to bring it up there, good for you. You're doing the right thing. That's the right way to do it. If you don't know where it is, and you're ready for a blood test, go get it from your doctor, and then look at it. It'll tell you. And if you're taking a vitamin D supplement and it's not at 70, what does that mean? You need to take more. Yeah, exactly. If you don't have anybody to help you get a vitamin D level, let us know. We can do that for you. But this is really important. Most people who have the lowest levels of vitamin D are at the highest risk for cancer. Did you know that? That's why we test for it in this office. It's vital, crucial, critical. So that's why it's part of the supplement suite. Now, we put this together because people always ask us, well, what can we take? What can we do to be proactive, to make application? So we put that together. This is the supplement suite that makes application with everything that you're learning tonight. If you get all these together, the discount is saving 15%. Now, it's up to you if that's something that you want. We have limited quantities, but we only discount at the workshops. So if you believe that you're serious about this and this is something that you really should get on board with, see them before you leave, because we don't have a whole lot of it. Yes?
I have a testimony.
You have a testimony?
About the vitamin D.
Tell me. The vitamin D.
When I came to this office here, I had vitamin D in front of my
Can you lower your mask for just a moment? Yeah. Thank you.
When I came to this office here, I had vitamin D down in my doctor's office in the back. They came back and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, it's not normal. And they said, yes, it's fine, it's okay. And I said, okay, it's all right. When I came to this office here, we were talking about vitamin D. And then I told you what happened, and you told me to take the vitamin D here. Just imagine my vitamin D was 25.
It's 25 when she first started. Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, that's almost as
it was okay.
low as
Afterwards, when I came, I started taking vitamin D.
start taking vitamin D here. Yeah.
I took it, it went up to 30-something, 36, something like that. It made
Okay.
it jump from 25 to 36.
Yeah.
Then I came here a day and you ordered another set for me,
Mhm.
and I took that.
Yeah.
And my vitamin D now is 90-something now.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody give her a big hand. Big round of applause. Okay. So we don't guess, we test, and that's just the point that I wanted to make. So you guys can take advantage of this on the way out before you leave. They'll help you with that. With this we can discount with the detox. I just want to be clear with the detox supplements. If you're going to see them about that, we're not able to discount on that, but we can discount on this. Google reviews. Let me ask by a show of hands: did you learn something life-changing tonight? Did you learning some important information?
Yep.
Yes. So this is how people find out about where to get the help that they're looking for. Everybody goes on Google now, and I'm not asking you to puff me up, but what I'm asking you to do is put it out there so that you can share your experience, your testimony, and when somebody reads that, you literally can get them off the fence and have a life-changing effect on them if they come find our office and find their way to one of these workshops or under care here, right? You have no idea, but your words can directly influence that. Would you be willing to write a review for us? You give us a 5-star review and you'll get a 25% gift certificate off anything that you want there. All right, so I just want to mention that. And then the last thing is this. We're going to finish up with this, and I don't want to take more than 3 minutes, but no promises. So, okay. So those are cells right there, right? And you go down to the morgue, let's say somebody died, a couple of days ago. Do they have a heart? Do they have lungs? Do they have blood? Liver, spleen, kidneys? They have a brain, they have a spinal cord, they have nerves, they have everything that you and I have. What does a dead person not have that you and I have? Life, right? So when God breathed life into you as a living being, there was organization, that intelligence went to work, and those cells started to multiply and divide. That was under the control of some sort of universal intelligence. The same intelligence that created the living universe created you and I. And if you look at what happens, the cells divide and multiply. On the 18th day after conception, what's the first thing to form in the embryo, in the fetus? What's the first thing to form? It's the brain and the spinal cord. Why is that? Because that's where the life, that's the conduit that the life that God put in your body expresses it through. Now, they have measured this. You can quantitatively measure the life force going through somebody because it's an electrochemical charge. Did you know that? And this is what vivifies every cell in your body. So you can put all these supplements in, and you can exercise, and you can detox, and you can do all that to a dead person, but what do you get from that? A dead person, right? They're still dead. Why don't those supplements work on a dead person? No life. Okay, so what does that have to do with anything? Because the most important part of this whole recipe for building health and preventing sickness and disease is your nervous system. Because that's what brings life to the cells and animates and orchestrates everything that has to do with expressing your DNA, for better or worse. That's the only thing that separates you from a dead person. So when you look at that chart right there, it shows you how the brain controls and coordinates all the functions of all the cells and all the tissues and all the organs in your body. Not some of them, what? All of them. And if your spine is out of alignment, then the bones that God put there to protect that system, they're not helping it. They're interfering with it. Those bones can shift out of alignment for anything. Sitting at a computer too long, slips, falls, trips, you fall thousands of times learning to walk as a child, car accidents, sleeping the wrong way. It can shift the bones. And you don't have to feel it. When those bones shift out of alignment, like that picture on the left, what is it doing to that nerve? It's pinching it. And what do you see? It's atrophying because it's losing life. And so Dr. Chung Ha Soo at the University of Colorado found that it only takes the weight of a dime on one of those nerves to shut down up to 60% of that nerve supply going through that nerve in just 3 minutes. Did you get that? So is it possible for you to have subluxation, bones shifted out of alignment in your neck and your back, shutting down vital nerve supply to the cells, increasing your risk of cancer? Is that a possibility? Yeah. Because what do those cells depend on to function properly? Nerve supply. What do they depend on to pull the levers on that DNA? Proper nerve supply. That's the intelligence that animates you as a living being. Are you with me so far? So what is the most important? If you want to be at 100% of your God-given potential or your healing potential, can everybody see and agree that it's impossible to do that? It's impossible to be at 100% health if you've got this going on in your spine. A necessary ingredient for building health. It's impossible without it. So Dr. David Felton, University of Rochester School of Medicine, said if you took the nerve fibers go into every organ of the immune system. We found that if you took the nerve fibers away from the spleen or lymph nodes, you virtually stop the immune system in its tracks. And there are specific parts of your nervous system, and your back in particular, that can affect your immune system. Right here, this is the first one. This is the top bone in the neck, called Atlas. Anybody remember Atlas in Greek mythology? Yeah. Held up the little 2-ounce bone, holds up the skull. What goes through that bone? The brainstem. What else? Vertebral-basal artery. What does that control? Blood pressure, breathing, immune system, sleep, balance, feeling of well-being. When that bone shifts out of alignment, guess what happens? Everything starts shutting down, including your immune system. And then the middle part of your back also, because it supplies the spleen. It can lower your resistance. So when we look at these things, your spine is kind of like a circuit breaker. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you have a problem, a health problem, you have to trace it back to the cause, the source, and the root. And if that breaker needs to be flipped back on, there's no supplement or detox that's going to do that. This was a study that came out in 1990. I remember I was in first quarter in chiropractic school. And they told me that they just released a study. They found that they took a group of AIDS patients and they gave them real chiropractic adjustments right up here, the top bone of the neck. And then they took a control group of AIDS patients and they gave them a fake adjustment. And what do you think happened? Published the outcome of the study. You know what they found? The people who got the real chiropractic adjustments, the AIDS patients, had their CD4, the white blood cell count, come up 48%. Did that have a positive effect on their immune system? Yeah. And so guess what? I graduated 4 years later, came out of school, took a copy of the study to an AIDS shelter, and I donated my time. I said, I'll give free care, but I want the blood results back. I want the reports back from the docs. And they came back 30, 60, 90 days later. What do you think I saw? Same exact thing. Same exact thing. Many of my patients there, they were able to get off their AIDS medication, their AZT. Because what are the adjustments at this level of your spine? What kind of effect does it have on your immune system? Positive. And what does that do to your risk of cancer? Yep. So you guys are getting this now. Dr. Ronald Pirro, PhD, University Research Center. He studied the immune systems of cancer patients, non-cancer patients, and non-cancer patients under chiropractic care for how long? 5 years or more. Raise your hand if you've been under chiropractic care 5 years or longer. Good, good. Many of my patients, 10, 20 years, you guys, you not only do you take less medication than everybody your age, but you look back, you could count on your left hand how many times you got sick, right? This is just what it does. Your immune system's on average 300% stronger. Have you ever heard of Viktor Frankl? Did you guys ever hear of Viktor Frankl? He was a psychologist who was in a Nazi concentration camp. Probably the best book that I ever read, Man's Search for Meaning. If you're a reader and you've never read this book, that's weird. So this is probably the most important book, one of the most important books you should ever read. So what he found was when you take away hope from people, because he watched all the people in the concentration camps, all his Jewish brothers and sisters, they all died spiritually before they died physically. When you remove somebody's hope, that's the beginning of the end. And you know what he discovered? He was a psychologist before he was sent to the death camp. What he found was that if you had a reason for living, if you had a purpose, you were much more likely to survive. So it became his mission every day to remember and recall every event so he could document it and make sure that there was somebody to tell the story if he ever lived through it. And he wrote a book. And here's what his book basically summarized. Everything can be taken from a man or a woman, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So I don't know if you guys know, it's million, yeah, that's it right there.
42,000 reviews, almost 5 stars.
Yeah.
On Amazon.
So it's been out for probably 50 or 70 years, but you guys know what that image looks like. They're standing there without clothes, without anything. They've stripped them of everything except what? The freedom to what? The freedom to choose. You choose what you believe. And when I sat there and when I was visiting my mom yesterday, I said, so how do you think you're going to do? She can't walk. She's got a long way to go. And I said, so she just had hip surgery. Now she needs knee surgery. All this was, the decline with her cancer treatment. It just weakened her so much. She fell, she broke her hip, knees. So she's going through all these surgeries now. Anyway, I said, how do you think you're going to do? Why do you think I asked her that? I wanted to see where her mind was. I wanted to do a mental check. So how do you think you're going to do, Mom? I don't know. I hope I'm going to do all right. I mean, we got to see what the orthopedist says. I said, no. Do you believe you're going to be well? Yeah, I think I do. It sounds like you got a little bit of doubt in there, because when you doubt, you do without. When you believe, you receive. When the Jews were freed from Egypt in the Old Testament, what did it show? They wandered in the wilderness for how long? 40 years. And the people who doubted God, who sinned against him, did they ever make it into the promised land? No. Who did? 2 people, Joshua and Caleb, because they believed God and they believed his promise. If you believe, you receive. And I'm not trying to make light of it or make it easy. When you're walking in the valley of the shadow of death, you better know who your Lord is, because that's the only place your peace is going to come from. Everything around you is in chaos and stress. Peace only comes from one place, one person. You better know who that is. And so this is what I was talking to her about last night. And when I did, and I shared with her exactly what I shared with you, yes, big smile came on her face. Hope, encouragement. That's why we need fellowship. That's why you need to be around a support group, people who think like you, who are going to encourage you and lift you. Iron sharpeneth iron. So this guy, Peter Matloff, was a patient of mine, and this was his grandson. And Peter came in, and he was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 lung cancer. It had already metastasized through his bones. So I was taking care of him, and the doctors gave him 6 months to live. And I said, what are you going to do? He's like, well, that's what I want to ask you. I mean, I've been under your care for a little while. I mean, the cancer was going on in his body for years before he got to me. And all of a sudden, that was it. The doctors gave him 6 months to live. So I said, I don't know, Peter. All I know is that when I adjust you, it's going to help your immune system, and it'll help your body do the best that it can under the circumstances. He's like, what about the chemo and the radiation? I'm like, I wouldn't do it, but it's up to you. He chose to do it. And he did all that, and it weakened him. He did it a second time, it weakened him. But, here we are going into the 3rd year, 4th year, he's still alive. 5th year, he's still alive. And so the doctors got him, on his next PET scan and ready to do his next round of chemotherapy, because every time he did the chemo, it would wipe him out, and the cancer would be gone for a little while, and then it would come back, and he'd be ready for another round of chemo. And I said, and so this was year 7 already. We were in year 7. The doctor gave him 6 months to live, year 7. And I said, so what does your doctor think now at this point? He's like, the doctor really doesn't know. At this point, I'm a guinea pig. He's never seen anybody, terminal stage 4 go 7 years. I'm not supposed to make it this far. He's like, really the only thing that's important to me is seeing my son, my grandson, bar mitzvah. They adopted their grandson because of something that happened in their family. He's like, I just want to live long enough to see him bar mitzvah. And I said, well, I'm going to do my part. And we kept adjusting him, kept taking care of him, and it was coming down to the wire. It was like only a few months out, and he couldn't leave his house. I went to his house, and I adjusted him at his house. I'll go there every week, a couple times a week, and adjust him at his house. And he couldn't breathe without the oxygen. It was getting there. It was right down to the end. And what do you think happened? Became his bar mitzvah day. Peter was there. Peter was there, and we were high-fiving him. And guess what? After that, he passed away. But he had a purpose. He had a mission. He had a reason for being, and he had a choice, and he made that choice. And so, what the mind conceives and believes, it achieves. And you got to remember that is a factor for fighting cancer, and that influences your DNA just as much as anything. So I've summarized all those points for you. Again, I don't think you learned. I don't know what you learned tonight that was really new and exciting, but I think we went deeper on a few levels. Right or right? Okay. Some of you guys are here, your guests. If you haven't been to my office before, if you'd like to sit down with me and have a consultation, learn a little bit more about your nervous system, if that's something that you need to address, what we normally do is we'll sit down, we'll look at your history, I'll talk to you, and see if there's an issue that I can help you with. How do we address the spine? We use thermography. Again, it doesn't matter if there's pain or not. The thermography is NASA space technology, which helps us locate any dysfunction or problems in the spine. Anything that's not normal, it'll show up. And that could be a causative factor for limiting your health or causing sickness and disease without you even feeling it. So if that shows up and you find it early detection, what is that worth? It's priceless. And so if that does show up and we need to take x-rays, we look at those and we correlate those together. And normally when somebody comes in as a new patient, the consultation, the exam, the x-rays to report the findings, $300-400 for that. If you're a guest here tonight and you're interested in having that done, ask them at the front desk. Deborah will give you a certificate, a friends and family certificate, for it's only $97. And we rarely do that. That'll include the x-rays, that includes everything, the full workup to see how I can help you, if I can help you. Talk to them before you leave. All right, so I think I've covered everything tonight. And last I would say, just make plans for next month's workshop. The supplements are limited, so if you need those, go up to the front, get those now. And also, if you're a guest, if you need an appointment, see Deborah as well, or tomorrow or Nikisha. Anybody can help you. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Love and appreciate you. God bless.